We'll call this meeting to order. This is the meeting of the North Hudson Public Works Committee. This meeting has been properly noticed. Roll call will indicate that all of the committee members are present, so we do in fact have a quorum, and also in attendance Kevin, our village engineer, and Mark, Public Works Supervisor. Are there any additions or corrections from the minutes from our last meeting, which were held on 20 August? If there are none, the minutes will stand approved as presented. Update on where we're at on the Shopyards project. Kevin, why don't you handle that? Sure. We've had our pre-construction meeting, and go ahead.
Okay, so based on the pre-con last week, it looks like the contractor wants to start to be next week. It'll be the 23rd to the 27th. It's going to be some clearing and grubbing that needs to take place before they actually do the underground utility work. Once the clearing and grubbing is done, then they're going to start in with the sewer construction. That'll be the first thing, and then the water main will proceed after that. Just had a meeting with Colin Thorpe. As you're aware, there's one easement that we would like to acquire. He has requested some changes with the alignment on the west side of his building. I will go ahead and make those changes, send that off to him, and see if that's...
Do we have the tail wagging the dog here?
I don't think so, Darrell. In fact, it is my opinion, having sat through the meeting and looking at the recommendations, that they do make sense. We will be putting, for example, sewer and water will actually be going down the middle of the street at the end of Monroe rather than off to the side. And I'll be straightening out a piece of the sewer and water that goes from 3rd over to where it connects in the shopyards rather than having a couple hooks in it. Jump in, please, but
basically,
it looks like it makes sense.
With the realignment of the water and sewer, it'll actually move it farther away from Carlin's building, and that's his biggest request, is to get the pipes farther away from his building so that if he wants to put some kind of an addition or something on the building, that he's not sitting on top of the sewer water easements.
Yeah, he thinks the property next to the building is more... That's his biggest concern over the stuff on the west side of the sewer and water. That little triangle piece. Thinks that's...
Is this improving the overall quality of the project, or is it compromising it?
It's going to be a little bit of legwork on our end to go ahead and revise the construction plans and stuff. And, we have to go back to St. Croix Ventures and make sure they're okay with everything, along with Colin. But I guess that's basically what we've been directed to do.
I don't think it's compromising the project.
No, I think we can, it's just it's getting close to, we were planning on going out there. And
does any of this hold up total excavating starting next week?
It's a lot of things that need to happen in a short matter of time. But I think that's basically what we've been directed to do after that meeting that took place here prior to this one.
Does this drive up the cost?
I wouldn't think so. I don't think they're going to have any concerns with it. I mean, it's changing the sewer alignment probably up on the north end 5-10 feet to the west. But it's just, there's a lot of things that need to happen for it to all take place.
But everything that has to be done is on your end, and
Yep.
it's paperwork.
Yep.
That's all it is. It's not
Yep.
shovel.
Yep.
And it's not additional cost, right?
Right.
Because they're a monthly.
I don't see how it could be. The only additional cost would be his time. And
Yeah, and we would just do that as part of the project, just to move things forward.
And the alignment of the pipes does not change the integrity of the bid process and the awarding of the bid based on plans and specs to the contractor that was awarded the bid?
Right. I'm still going to want to run it past him to make sure that he doesn't have any concerns with it, but I don't foresee that he's gonna have an issue with it.
In fact, he's gonna save on a couple of elbows.
Yeah. So, that's where we're at.
Okay. Anything else?
I'm gonna miss this topic in a couple months.
Assuming it does in fact start and get completed, this is,
Yeah, the biggest thing we gotta get the sewer alignment down first, because that's where they're gonna wanna start. And that's right where they're gonna be starting, is on Colin Thorpe's parcel.
so you've got some work to do.
Yep.
We better get this meeting over with so you can get started.
We'll be working on it right
Okay,
away.
that's it on shop yards?
Yeah.
2013 pavement surface evaluation, which is our famous PACER evaluation. We do have some data in our packet that I'm sure that the committee members have had a chance to review. Essentially, do I summarize this correctly, Kevin, in looking at it as all the roads decline 1 rating from last year or from this year to next year? Is that essentially what it is?
Yeah, I mean, Mark goes out next.
Basically, I was one who goes out and do this. I actually go out and look at the roads, everything else. And basically, some roads have changed. There's quite a few that did stay the same, but it's basically. Then the thing you have to look at it, this is done every 2 years, and what the idea of this to do is to rate what the streets will be during this period of during this 2-year construction period. And that's what, so you're not just looking at what it is now and what it's going to be next year. Basically, that's what you're evaluating. So.
I would say that it was very helpful to have the narrative because a couple of these color codings are so close.
Oh, yeah.
It was very hard to tell the difference between 9 excellent and 3 poor. They're almost the same color code.
They are very,
So,
maybe look at changing that, distinguish that a little bit.
well, there's no doubt that we need the process completed. And Kevin, you've done this in the past. You're indicating that you will complete the work and update the PACER map for a cost not to exceed $750. Is that
That's
the
correct.
summary?
And that's same price as what we charged before, so.
Chair would entertain a motion before we proceed with any further discussion. Let's get an action item in front of us.
I'm looking for the suggested motion, or I can make one up.
I think you can just make going up.
Okay, thank you. I move that we authorize Kevin Oem, representative of Cedar Corp., to perform the necessary paperwork to file with the state regarding the PACER map, and for a cost not to exceed $750?
Yeah,
$750.
$750.
Yep.
Is there,
appropriate?
is there a second?
Second.
Okay, on a motion and a second, we are authorizing Kevin and Cedar Corp. To proceed with update of the PACER map at a cost not to exceed $750. Discussion.
When we finish, each time when we do this, are we under any requirement by the state to act on it? Or
You
Well,
submit it?
It
No, if
determines
it's a
our.
1, 2, or 3.
Yeah, it
Oh.
also determines when we're applying for LRIP funds or,
Yep, local road improvement programs, yeah.
This is kept in their database, and if we go for an LROP thing, they look at this and they say, yes, that is justified or not justified.
I want to make sure that that is in fact true. I know, no, not make sure. I wanted to hear what you had to say. That's what I wanted to be sure of, so that we don't file something like this and it's almost, that we don't file this and then the state comes and said, well, you said it was the lowest rating. When are you going to fix it? To which my answer would be, we can't afford to do it because your state, you're too busy repairing roads that nobody thought needed improvement. We need some money to help with this, and we don't have the money to do some of these improvements.
correct me if I'm wrong, Kevin, but I am not aware of any municipality, or the county does this too, based on a PACER rating that anyone comes in and directs you to do something with your roads.
No.
You're simply
I wanna make
indicating
sure.
No.
that your evaluation of the infrastructure and the roads that you have within your jurisdiction are rated this way, so that if and when you apply for LRIP funds or other road assistance, they're indicating, they're matching that what you're wanting to do is a road that you have already determined is of this quality
Thank you. That's
in
what
a
I wanted.
declining basis.
And to add to the discussion, this is also a grade book on how we're doing.
Oh, well, absolutely.
And
Yeah.
I think that we kind of just laid down in front of the village board. And, you know, I'm new to this. And I think a year from now, I won't lay down on that and just let the board pass over it. I think I'm going to put up more of a fight. I think we need to put up more of a fight to protect the integrity of our roads. I mean, it's, you know, you say that Fram filter ad, pay a little more, or pay a little now, or pay a lot later. And that it's the truth when it comes to farm equipment, when it comes to any piece of equipment, including these roads. These roads are a tool to our village, and we need to take care of them. It's not fair for Mark to be plowing up and chipping everything up and destroying the roads even more because of, you know, snow and freezing rain, or the water getting in there and freezing and busting up the roads more. We need to seal coat these things. We need to stand up a little higher and fight to get these roads done and protected and maintained. And it's I'm at fault on that last meeting for not putting up more of an argument, and it will not happen again.
Any additional discussion? The motion in front of us is to authorize Cedar Corp to proceed with the upgraded PACER information. They will do that at a cost not to exceed $750.
My
Any-
only, I misspoke just slightly. It's a recommendation to the board.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, that's a given. We'll go first to finance and then to the board. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, and that is carried unanimously. And that recommendation will move forward. Gentlemen, you have in your packet information concerning our 2013-2014 snow removal. As you're aware that we have had one contractor providing assistance to the village. That contractor is wishing to begin pulling back from full-time involvement. Public Works Supervisor has placed in front of us two suggested contracts for our consideration, and so the action item that is suggested for us is to you can see the suggested motions on the issue sheet. Chair would entertain a motion to bring this forward, and then we'll discuss it.
Move we recommend to the board the approval of the snow ice removal contract with Bjornstead and Sons Excavating. And second, move to recommend the approval of the snow ice removal contract with Zapper Brothers, Inc.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. This essentially is taking the contract that we previously had with Bjornstead and splitting it. I'm going to turn this over to Mark Ekblad for some review of the reasons for that before we proceed with the discussion. So, Mark?
Basically, the current snow removal contractor, Dennis Bjornstead, like it has in the memo and stuff, the way it's worked since he came out in '97 basically is after hours, you know, let me put it this way. The Village of North Hudson Public Works maintained the streets. We did all the salting and everything else of the streets, you know, from the hours of 6 in the morning to 6 at night. After 6 at night until 6 the following morning, and on weekends, basically off time for normal public works, he would be responsible. He would actually get called out to take care of the salting of the streets, you know. And also, he'd be the first truck out on nights and weekends to determine if, you know, we have to get out there and start plowing. And then if he did, then he would contact me, and then basically everybody, all personnel showed up to actually do the initial plowing or do the plowing. But the thing is, it left for Denny, you know,
he's done it for this for, like I said, it's been 16 years, and basically he's at the point where he doesn't want to have to be on call every night, every weekend. He would like to have other people help out. And he was trying to get arranged to have some other personnel actually, do this and everything else. He was actually talking to another landscaper that was going to come in and help with some of this additional time, or to help take some of the time. But basically, this individual received a full-time job with Washington County, so he's done a lot of the picture. At that time, when Denny instructed me on that he was back by himself again. He asked if the village could find another contractor to help take care of some of the on-call time. And at that time, I tried looking around, tried to talk to different ones about it, everything else, and basically the only one I really got that was interested in helping the village out with this was Zappa Brothers.
Two questions, Mark. And anything that I say has nothing to do with my perception of the quality of either of these contractors. I think they're both qualified and fine contractors. That has nothing to do with it. But previously, we had a contract with a minimum annual payment of $9,000 to one contractor. Now we're splitting it in half with $45,000 to each. It seems to me that there is the potential, at least, for some vulnerability of one of the contractors performing, let's pick a number, $6,000 or $7,000 of work, and the other contractor did less work but has a minimum amount, and we've got a potential of winding up paying more, even though it's split, than when we had one contract.
Yeah.
So walk me through
Okay.
that.
Well, basically what it is we were discussing rates, truck rate change, because there is rate changes there. That's why I put the old contract out with you, a copy of the old contract, because his rates have gone up, and basically he was the one who said that he would like to cut the $9,000 in half. He said $4,500 guaranteed to him was enough. He'd rather see the other contractor have the other $4,500 or whatever the village works out with the other contractor. That's basically what I did. I never met with Gary as far as because Gary never requested a guaranteed amount. He said that if he's going to go in the contractor and also probably have to be some guaranteed money, but he never said $4,500. We never discussed that actual dollar amount. He knows that the $9,000 got cut in half.
But that doesn't answer Darrell's concern.
No, basically it would be my responsibility to make sure that that does not happen. What I would do is make at certain points, like if we have to actually have to do snow removal, everything else from intersections, I'm going to go with Zappa Brothers just because they have the larger equipment. They're going to get it done quicker.
Maybe I'm missing something. Why don't we just go 100% to Zappa Brothers?
At this time, Gary explained to me he does, since Denny's willing to do half of it, he does not want to step on Denny's feet. And plus, he does not have enough trucks to sign that because he also does the school district. And he has to make sure if he's going to go full-time, which he said he would consider it next year, going full-time into it if the village decides they want to go that way. But he would have to pick up some additional equipment to make sure that he had it around just to be available for the village.
So it seems to me that having these two contracts, this is a
just
transition.
Yeah, well, basically.
This is really a one-year stepping stone, and next year we have to evaluate something different.
No, that's what I'm saying. Now, this, all I'm doing is requesting this be basically to get us through until next spring, and then what I would say is in the spring of next year, we sit down and decide what we want to do, if we want to set the, basically advertise and see if we can get a different snow removal contractor in. Do we want to
not to drag
have discussion with the city?
Not to drag this out, but has anyone gone to Denny and said, hey, Zappa Brothers is willing to pick up the other half? I mean, there's a good probability that Denny's going to go, hey, tell you what, Seafield's pick up all of it.
Well, and that's what I was saying. Right now, Zappa Brothers do not have enough equipment available to be able to do it this one.
Well, and to your point, before we get into a permanent, long-term arrangement with anybody while we're in this transition period, I really want to get a specific discussion and proposal from the city of Hudson and consider getting out of owning capital equipment in the first place and get someone else to own that equipment, maintain that equipment, and contract for service. Now, whether or not that is a viable option, I don't know at this point, but I really want to seriously look at it so we can make a reasoned decision. All right, well, back to the minimums. I would feel more comfortable if those minimums were either lower or not there. It still feels to me that we've got some vulnerability, and I know that it puts the onus on you to manage it, but it would seem to me better either to have both of them at a lower amount, or to say, all right, Denny, you're going to do half of the work.
Yeah, it needs to vote.
Half of the work that you did before, so we'll give you half of the amount. Gary is going to pick up the backfill amount, and we'll use him, for the remainder, so he sees he's going to do about half of it, but with no minimum in that one,
Yeah,
or a low minimum.
That if you look at the issue statement, it has it in there how the breakdown would work for on call and everything else. Denny's guys or Gary's guys will actually be more on call than Denny's personnel. Than Denny will, I should say, because Denny's the only one that goes out salting with his truck. 'Cause I have it worked down right now. Zappa Brothers would take basically 2 nights a week and 2 weekends a month. Denny would have 1 night a week, 1 weekend a month, possibly 2 if he has to help fill in for some reason. And the village would take care of 1 night and 1 weekend, as discussed with.
If I'm overly concerned, you guys speak up. I'm just a little
I like,
concerned.
I like something that you
And it has
said
nothing to do with the integrity of either
no.
contractor.
No one's questioning that.
No,
one's
that's definitely not an issue. We've known the Zappa family, and we've known
Yep.
Denny for
Yep.
many, many years. And I like something that you said here. We'll guarantee Denny $4,500. And we say, I don't know if it's necessary for us, if it has to be in a contract with Gary, but feel him out. Let's see how Denny goes with this. We won't give you a minimum. We're pretty sure you're going to do more than the $4,500 worth. When I look at the price, the cost of some of the equipment that he's got here, and say this is just for this year.
You mean for Darrell or for okay? Let me get through. Okay, you're saying keep Denny at the 4,500
Yeah.
and it have no minimum or no guaranteed money for Zappas.
Yeah.
I can talk to Gary on that.
Let's see if he'd buy into that. Would that make you feel better?
I'd feel better, just because right now, splitting it in half
Yeah.
with the same guarantee,
It's,
it's awkward.
Oh,
It
no,
is.
and that's what I said. I did that on my own. Just
Oh,
basically
okay.
because Denny
Right.
said he was willing to cut 4,500, go to 4,500, cut the 900,000 in half, go to 4,500. That 4,500 is sitting there. Like I said, I had no discussions with as far as Gary as a guaranteed amount.
well, and what you got to do is when he gets to 4,500, plan it so that he's got the on-call stuff anyway, so that you're going to get the Denny with the 4,500.
And the thing, Gary is like both of us discussed at one time. If Gary said, if my discussion with Gary was, if there was a time that we needed an extra truck out plowing, he would get an extra truck from somewhere and come out and help plow. If Denny would have mechanical failures, something like that, or we would have mechanical failures, he'd be willing to do that. But mostly, what his personnel, what he's on here for, will be for helping with the on-call situation. And that way, as contractors, they're allowed to drive the village truck. So it'll be our international that'll be going out, because that's the one that's always loaded with salt. But it's just more or less right now, Gary's personnel are more manpower. But yet, we had him give you this whole list of equipment, number one, so you can see what Gary has that can be sent out if the village needs it.
There's something that's missing here that Gary was talking to me about. He says, I've got a a road grader.
Yeah.
That in an ice situation, the road grader works real well. And he said, and I don't see it on here, but that was one of those other things that I just wanted to throw in so you guys are aware of that.
Well, one of the things, Gary's got a big front end loader, and it
Yeah.
probably is going to move snow away from the corners a lot faster than
Whole
our
lot
little
faster.
skid steers.
You got it.
Yep.
You got it. I see
That's
that
the
Gary's
wheel
going
loader
to
right
do.
here with
Yeah.
the little.
Gary will do
Yeah,
well,
the road grader's on here.
and he's going to do well by us.
Yeah. Grader's right there. This is John Deere.
Oh, grader with wings. Sorry, I
Yep.
missed that. Okay,
That's on there.
so it is on there.
Why don't you talk to Gary, go back and indicate this discussion, and just see if he's comfortable with no minimum, he knows he's going to do the work, or a lower minimum so that it still does not total, that we're on the hook for $9,000.
And we have had winters where we had to pay the $9,000, even though there was $5,000 worth of,
Yeah.
or $5,000 of work. I think that was,
Yeah, that's very seldom that ever happens.
oh, I know. And we wish for those.
Well, no, I hope we have lots of snow this winter, but that's me.
Biggest thing was like, and the other thing too is, the other thing with this too is with Gary's equipment and everything else, and something that, I'm just gonna bring this up real quick, I'm not gonna spend a lot of time on it. Something that we have to look for, that should be in our disaster relief packet, or our emergency management packet, is that if there's a big storm, like, trees coming down and everything else, we really should have some kind of a contract with set rates with a contractor that, hey, we got a big storm in here, we need these roads cleared, we need payloaders and dump trucks and everything else, and
Well, you also need those established rates for FEMA reimbursement.
yes,
Yeah.
as we're finding out, so.
All right, well, you've heard the discussion. This would be a recommendation that we'll take forward, but before the finance and board meeting, get some information back to us from Gary's point of view and see if we can modify that.
The motion does not have anything in here about that. In fact, it
No, but it-
refers to the contract.
But it's referencing the contracts, and
Yes.
that amount is in the contract.
Yes, so we need to, okay.
The actual contract, when it's done, what I'll do.
Contract has not been signed. Right now, it's a draft contract. And
What I can do is,
Yeah. Okay. Any other discussion?
Feel good about it.
All right. Motion is to, actually, it's got two pieces. I think they can be combined. It's a motion to recommend the approval of the contract with Bjornsons and Sons and with Zappa Brothers, Inc. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, and that carries unanimously. Budget discussion. Mark, I'll turn it over to you to walk us through some of the highlights here.
yeah, what I did is
I turned immediately back to the point that Paul was making earlier. Earlier tonight, I turned immediately to see what we had in here as a recommendation for seal coating, because this year we did no seal coating, and next year we're playing catch-up. So walk us through these highlights, Mark.
Well, basically what I did is I gave you a little actual breakdown sheet, which is actually shows you what's basically in your public works budget. The only thing that's not on here again is wages, benefits, stuff like that. That is not on this because that will be taken care of during the
Yep, that
finance.
gets factored in.
As you can see, I got things marked if it actually went down or went up. And you'll see at the towards the bottom, right before the conservation part, because that's not actually part of your thing, but is part of what I deal with. Basically, you can see what my thing is. I'm basically at a plus of $7,750 from this increase over last year's budget. You also see at the seal coating, if you look up at crack fill and seal coating, well, actually, if you look at where it says contracted street maintenance, crack filling, I put it at $15,000 because that's basically what you've spent the last 3 years on crack filling. You've been right around that number, so that's a $3,000 increase right there.
Mm-hmm.
Contracted seal coating, it went from 14 that you guys had in your budget to 15. Because when we did seal coat streets, basically, we've always been picking how many streets we do, and we're always right around that 12 to 15,000 mark.
But we're
we're
a year,
still
but
falling
we're a year behind. We
No,
did,
we're 2 years behind now.
well, my point is, we didn't do anything last year. The
We also
14
didn't do
that was in the
anything 2 years
budget,
ago.
we spent at other places.
Yep. Yep. And basically, you also see that hot patching also went up $4,000 because it was budgeted was at 6, now it's at 10. Because basically, we're always right around that 11,000 mark for the hot patching. And just because our streets are getting older and not being maintained as well, I added another $500 in for us to be able to pick up patch material. 'Cause you're going to keep getting more potholes. That's just the way it is until we start doing something. So that's my reasoning on the thing. I know this is going to get, chopped. Well, of course, it always does. And one of the things that always seems to get chopped is crack filling, seal coating. It always gets reduced.
It's because they're not educated on it. It's, ugh.
I see 20,000 here for the snow and ice removal. Is that liberal? Is that representative, kind of an
That's kind
average
of that's basically pretty close to what we. Let's say it's within 5,000 either way of what we normally do as far as that's for picking up our salt. That's for picking up. It's salt, cutting edges, basically.
What are cutting edges?
Cutting edges go on the plows, so we can actually, they sit on the bottom of the snow plow,
Yeah.
and they're the edges that actually rub against the blacktop.
Okay.
And what it does, it saves the plow itself from being damaged. When the cutting edge
Replace it,
gets
yeah.
within an inch, we replace the cutting edges because we don't want
It's
to.
Okay.
on the bottom of the plow.
Yep.
It's part of the plan.
Yep.
Yeah, George, on the bottom of the plow, all those bolt holes.
Yeah.
They can be
That's-
removed.
We take them
I got
off
it.
and put new edges back on.
Wearing item.
Yeah, it's a wearing item.
That's all it is.
What are we gonna do about the roads? We want to talk about this still or not?
Well, now's the time to talk about it.
What do you suggest, Mark?
Well, I'm suggesting we go with, they even try to get by with what we should have done this year and everything else, we're gonna need at least $15,000 for seal coating. And I don't wanna put money in here and then next year having to be robbing it, because if we reduce crack filling, reduce the hot patching, those have to be done before you can seal coat. And
Right.
those have to be done to even, to all the other streets just to keep them maintained before you seal coat.
Yes, and I'm glad those numbers are more realistic.
Yeah.
Because when we got the bids this year for the hot patching and the crack filling, we needed to have extra money, and so we robbed it out of
Yep.
seal
Seal
coating.
coating.
Didn't do any seal coating.
Yep. And see, the big thing was last year I went with larger numbers during budget time, and they got reduced down to what we went with, and that was not. You can't keep doing that. I know it's hard to say we got to find $7,000, $7,750 more to get in our budget, but it's.
Well, the proposal that you've got here, in those three areas, the crack filling, the seal coating, and the hot patching, you're recommending an additional $8,000 in comparison to last year. I think that is eminently justifiable, particularly when we had in the budget last year $14,000 for seal coating, and we didn't do any seal coating. None.
And basically trying to make up for that and everything else, since we are going to have, we got a newer, we have a newer truck coming in. We're getting rid of the old pickup truck that's going to be, that one's going to be pulled out of there. So hopefully, I took $1,000 out of that. I reduced it down from $4,000 to $3,000. Also with the equipment, I reduced that by $500 just because of, we have the new skid steer sitting here now instead of the old one. We have the new mower instead of the old mower. So,
Kevin, you're going to be working on PACER ratings. Is there any data that your industry has that would indicate if roads in a particular jurisdiction are not seal coated on a normal schedule, for instance, we didn't seal coat any of our roads last year,
Yeah.
that there is some kind of metric factor that says, therefore, your PACER ratings would decline this much faster? Is there any data like that? I mean, obviously it does, but
It
there's
does.
nothing that we could point to statistically and say, here's what happens if you don't do this. I like data.
Yeah, I know, yeah. You know, typically what they figure for a life expectancy of a road is 20 years. Is
20 years?
20 years. So,
To give you an example, it's 26 years now since the main drag through downtown Hudson was done. And take a look at it.
And isn't it concrete though?
It's concrete.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't concrete supposed to last longer than asphalt? Really, isn't it?
Here, I'll give you an answer from a concrete specialist
Okay.
who
Sure.
told me, you give me concrete, I'll give you cracks. Concrete cracks. And you can't fill concrete cracks the way you can fill asphalt cracks.
Yeah, I saw they use the same rubber, don't they?
Yeah.
You
yeah.
know, you can't use.
So now you're mixing concrete and asphalt.
Plus
That's why,
the
that's why they had to
joints.
have that spray,
That's
that
right.
spray sealer come in
Yeah.
and do a second. That's why.
How many years ago? 26.
I think it's 26, yeah.
I think where a chair is trying to say is that how fast does it go from a 5 to a 2
Yeah.
when you don't touch it versus a 5 to a 2 when you try to maintain it?
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
we buy an
Yeah.
extra 3 years.
Right.
Am I saying that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely a fair assumption that you definitely buy 3 years out of it by seal coating it, if not even more.
Well, the whole thing,
So
we
it doesn't-
come back to what Paul said earlier. You pays me now or you pays me later.
Right.
If you do nothing with it, it's going to deteriorate
Yeah.
a lot faster, and then you're talking about a total reconstruction,
Major cost.
major cost.
Yep.
Now, there's an irony to that. When you have a major cost to that, then you can take out a loan, and you can also charge the homeowners on either side of the street.
And another thing to look at is when you're figuring out the PACER thing, the training I've been and everything I read on is you also got to consider is how much traffic is on that road.
Sure.
You look at Lemon Street, you look at Michelson Street, you look at Summers, how much more traffic they see than these other
Oh.
streets. You know, that's just,
I can count the cars that go down my end of Ellen Street, right, Paul? It's,
Me on a scooter is one of them.
yeah,
Oh, they all turn at Monroe and go to the stop sign, or stoplight.
exactly. They do.
Monroe Street's one of those streets that if you go out there and look at it, you'll see the aggregates starting to really show on that
Mhm.
street.
Yeah.
And that street ain't far away from
Let's make it a toll road.
needing seal coat. Real quick.
While you were talking, I was looking over these numbers, and I was looking, okay, where could we pick up $5,000? And guess what? I can't find any.
No.
You go over these and you go, well, geez, that's a small amount, that's a small amount, that's a small amount.
When I was going through this, you cross your fingers and go, I hope. But it's unrealistic to hope that something's not going to break. It's unrealistic to think insurance is going to go down. It's
I'm hoping that we're going to see more than let's see, it says vehicle repair and maintenance. Wouldn't it be nice to be able to say that we're saving more than $1,000 in maintenance because we have the new vehicles, the new mower, and so on?
he's still got to change oil. He's still got to change the belts.
And the
Still
problem
gotta-
is right now, we got a 2003 sitting out there, and that 2003 really ain't in much better shape than my 2001. That's the thing. That one's pulling now, so actually when the new truck comes in, that one's probably gonna be the one pulling the loader and everything else when it has to go someplace because, you know,
I think it's going to come down to, we need to, well, you're giving this to Gloria. Gloria has to compile all this and take a look at how much money we got. What can we expect to come in? I'm agreeing with you, Paul. We've got to do this. Where are we going to get the money to do it? So, bake sale?
I maybe that's another second town celebration. 2 Pepper Fests. One in the spring. I don't know.
Or maybe
I
we
don't
could-
know.
Maybe we could ask Pepperfest for some money so we can do the roads.
Get a
I
grant.
don't know. It's something's got to. Yeah. I don't have the answer. It's easy to say fundraiser, but that's unrealistic when you're talking about municipalities.
Well, I'm hearing that we have a consensus that the draft recommendations that are here, which will get folded into the big budget that we'll begin to wrestle with, from the standpoint of this committee, we are in support of these recommendations, which from Mark's standpoint forwards an additional $7,700 request this year to last year comparison to the budget process. Am I correct?
I would agree with that.
In that case, Chair would entertain a motion to recommend to the village administrator and to finance and the board our support of these budget numbers.
Your turn, Paul.
Just not quite there yet. Let's give it a try, though.
I like what you said, Darrell, about how we are in support of, because that's really all we can do, is to show our support
Yeah.
for the recommended
Right,
budget.
right. We would be
We can't do any more than.
right.
No.
We would be forwarding these recommendations and supporting these recommendations
Yeah.
for the Public Works Department.
Was that your motion?
So
I didn't make the motion.
No, my
Paul made
motion
it.
is to forward these recommendations for the 2014 Public Works budget to our village board at the next meeting.
To the administrator.
Well, to the administrator, and
Finance Committee.
that's,
Okay.
you got that.
Yeah.
Administrator, Finance Committee, and Village Board, yes, correct.
Got it.
Second? Is there any additional discussion on the budget proposal?
One other thing we need to look at is capital projects. Do we want to, I know some of you were at the board meeting when we had a resident come in, who was not happy that the village was going to be, her thing is that she felt we were going to be wasting money by doing the patching on Lakeview Drive. After talking to her outside, she understood why we're doing it, because basically we wouldn't be able to plow her street if we didn't do it. And plus her street's going to get worse if we don't do anything at all. But her request is, why doesn't the village do a project and fix my street the way it should be fixed? And I told her, well, that's something that the village has looked at. We have tried to get LRIP money. Everything else, actually, Kevin and myself both talked to her outside, and her feelings is she thinks her street's in such bad shape that she said her neighbors agree with her that they want something done with her street. And I also told her, well, if the village is going to do that, we could either go in and do a mill and overlay on that street, or we do it as a larger project. Because, as you know, the last 3 residents on Lakeview Drive are still on, septic systems, private septic systems. The reason they cannot, we actually have to, and we did this for when we did the 7th Street project back in '98, is we actually lowered the sewer in 7th Street to make sure that the Pine Street sewer could be lowered so we could actually install a new sewer in Lakeview Drive that would actually allow those 3 residents to be picked up and gravity flow to Pine Street and then on to 7th. So I guess what Kevin and I basically need to know is if we are going to do something on that street, if it's going to be done next year, and how big of a project is this going to be. And from there, I'll leave it up to
People need to be educated on how these roads work, and how the crack filling versus seal coating. I didn't know much about it, and before I started into this was all jargon to me, and I've just been doing research, and I filled in the cracks of my driveway now because of this stuff. I walked the sidewalk to see if there's cracks on there. I guarantee you there is no one else in the village that walked their sidewalks to see if they could patch some holes in it to make it last longer. And it's easy for people on the other side, the same people that elected us to be here, to be critical and to think that we're not doing anything or they want a new road. It's real easy to just cast that stone out there and say, I want a new road. I deserve it. I need it. They gotta educate themselves on this stuff before they have an opinion on it. And they have to understand, these budgets, this is not fun to look at. It's fun when it's my business, because I enjoy doing it. But these numbers are tight, and we're dealing with taxpayers' money. You can't just go, okay, we gotta increase revenue. No, you can't. That's not an option with this. This is how do we spend it more wisely. And not doing the seal coating last year is a mistake. It is.
Oh, and she actually agreed with that, everything else, because this president is a former board member.
Yeah, so there you go. Then that's good. I'm saying, I bet you hear it from all the different
Oh, yeah.
angles throughout the year.
Oh, yeah.
So I do not envy what you do.
Well, two things, Mark. First of all, I believe that road is the lowest PACER-rated road in the village, and I think it's a 3-rated road, right?
Yeah.
So it would be the next road project that we would do. I don't think anybody disagrees. That would be the next one, so the timing is the issue. At the time we would do that road, this is the first that I have heard that it's an opportunity to extend the sanitary sewer to some residences that are still on septic.
That's correct.
I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah.
And that would make sense to me at the time we do the road. So the consideration would be the magnitude and scope of an inclusive project to do the road and to extend the sanitary sewer, which would make sense when we do the road. That should be done at that time.
And you've just increased the cost of the road considerably.
That's right.
Because of the 3 residents at the end of the block.
That's right. But when we do the road, it should be done.
No argument.
And that no way would, when we did that, would we to be telling the people, no, you're required to hook up. It's just that if your system ever fails, here's your option. Now you can go and connect to the municipal and, and that's.
We can't require them to hook up.
No.
We can only put the infrastructure in.
In place.
Mhm.
But it gives them the option.
What is it, hypothetically, right now, if their septic, if one of those drain fields should fail? and-
Then it's our problem.
I'm still surprised that there are
It's their problem.
there
It's their
are
problem.
private septics in the village, but hypothetically, if it would fail right now, is there any village liability or responsibility to that homeowner?
No.
No.
The
We've
only,
gone through this with
Yeah.
the St. Croix Station.
the only thing that could possibly happen is if, as you all know, anybody that has a drain field, if your one fails, and if it cannot be, fixed or everything else, and a separate drain field is needed, there's certain requirements. You gotta have so much room. Now, is their land big enough to allow them to get a new, septic tank and septic, system set in on that property? And there's some of those lots back there I don't think there is any.
No.
Well, actually, I've been to, I went to a couple of the seminars on the septic systems, and they have them now where you can get for a whole house, septic system about this big around. There you have the small ones now that are more efficient than what the big ones were. I have another concern, and it has nothing to do with sewage. How many residents do we have here in this village who still have an underground oil tank? And the reason I bring it up now is for 2 reasons. Number one, I just saw a huge tanker backing into a driveway here on 6th Street yesterday. I had to stop and wait for this monster tanker to back into this driveway. All right, that's reason number one. It got me to thinking about it. And I also know, it's near and dear to my heart, of a resident who, not of our village, not even in this state, whose underground oil tank sprang a leak and contaminated 4 neighboring properties. The cost of reclaiming that property is over $700,000. Who's going to pay for it? You could say, not my problem, but that's not the issue. The issue is we need to maybe send out a word somehow talking about severe loss, an environmental problem if an oil tank goes. And it's something that when it goes very, very slowly, drop by drop as the bottom rusts out. When the microphones go off, I'll tell you about the piece of property in question. So, there we are.
Do you have a recommendation, Mark, from a capital improvement standpoint, as far as that road is concerned?
My recommendation would be that, that this committee and the village board, basically try to get something into the capital budget to actually have, number one, we know the street has to be reconstructed, no matter what. If we gotta do a mill and overlay, it'd be the cheapest way out, but then we're not really taking care of, the infrastructure itself. We're not extending it to the people that who possibly might need it, By the time that road is ready to be redone again, I would hate to have us go and put a brand new street down, new asphalt and everything else, and 5-6 years we're in there digging it up just because we were going to extend the sewer, or try to extend the sewer. Because now we're going to be digging up that whole brand new street plus Pine Street at the same time. And
The last time this came up, one of the topics was the cost of bringing a company in here for that very short street. And that we ought to be tying it in with, is there another street in the village that has a similar problem, and we could combine them and have a lower
the
cost?
biggest thing, you're going to have Lakeview Drive, plus you're going to have to do Pine Street. And when we did,
That's right.
when we did your project,
Lower it.
or
Don't call it my project.
when we did St. Croix Street and Helen Street project back in 2002, we actually looped it around Lemon Street. We brought the water and sewer around from the north and actually came down. So we're at the north end of Pine Street, brand new fire hydrant, which I got a call from the fire chief today, thanking the village very much for that, because they used that hydrant more than they used anything else, because they got better fire flows out of that hydrant. So, but he was very, very happy about
Did
that.
we truck in any water for that fire, or were
He told me everything was talk off.
the water
hydrants.
pressure was sufficient and
Brought it
flow
off-
rates? And
Brought off the 7th Street hydrants and that new hydrant we set at north end of Pine Street.
All right.
Feels good, doesn't it?
Yeah,
So, yeah.
yeah.
So he was very happy with that.
You should tell the shopyards guys that.
Yeah, so he knew we had a meeting tonight, so he just wanted me to pass it on to you guys. I said they were very happy with their fire flows that they had for fighting that fire. But my recommendation was myself. I know anytime you do this, you might make some residents that are going to be involved and are going to be unhappy. But my recommendation would be, let's not just do a mill and overlay on Lakeview Drive. Let's do a complete project both on Lakeview Drive and Pine Street North and get them done the way they should be done.
Would you be able to give us a reasonable budgetary number for discussion purposes as we enter the budget process on what that would mean?
Yep. Definitely.
To reconstruct the road and to extend the sanitary sewer, it would really be to the end, to the cul-de-sac, right? To the end of
That's steady on too.
to the end of the road.
Termini.
For planning purposes.
Yep.
I mean, don't scope out the job, but I mean, give us a reasonable number that if we were going to do it, here's what the number looks like.
Yep. That's something you would discuss at the next.
And well,
And then at
yeah,
the same time, there's a void in the Pine Street sanitary sewer that, there's a void there. We could actually, when we do Pine Street, make sure all that sanitary sewer gets stuck in too, just so in case any of those back lots off St. Croix Street want to separate like they did before. So.
get that figure to the administrator so it can be plugged into the draft budget. We're going to have a preliminary budget discussion on the 23rd. Yeah. I will not be there. I'll be in Madison, but that's going to be the very first budget discussion.
Okay. So 23rd of this month.
Right.
Yep.
Right. Okay, the motion that's in front of us is to recommend the expense figures that are contained here, the draft expense figures, to the administrator and to finance and the village board. Is there any additional discussion on that? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed, same sign, and that carries unanimously. Engineers report, Kevin.
Have one thing to bring up. I see Mark had given this to me tonight, but it looks like the next LRIP funding grant is up again for 2014 through 2015. Based on what I'm hearing for discussions tonight, probably the option or the one that we would probably choose to apply for would be Pine Street. You were successful in getting some funds for the Lakeview Drive project.
Right.
I don't know what it was, 2 years ago or so. So you do have those funds available. Typically, what they usually allocate is around $20,000 per project. You are allowed to do one substitution if you choose so, but there's no cost associated with it. I think
Right.
it makes some sense
Right.
to at least try to acquire those dollars and probably
Well, it
Pine-
puts us in the queue.
yeah, yep. So Pine Street would probably be the one that we would look at applying for, so.
Mhm.
Pine and Lakeview? You said the Lakeview is already.
No, we
Yep,
we
Lakeview, we
received
already
2
got
years
some
ago,
funds
we
for it.
received Lakeview.
Help us, and especially our scribe, LRIP.
It's
Road
local road improvement project. So basically, it has to be, can't be arterial or collector street classification. It's got to be just a local street,
Local road project.
local road improvement program.
project.
State gives so much money down to the counties, and they divvy it up around all the requests.
Cities and municipalities.
Yep, yep. So, we've used it on a number of projects. I mean, with St. Croix Station, we had some dollars for that project. Can't remember if 10th Street was maybe another one, but we've used it in the past before, so it could definitely make some sense to
Okay,
apply
yeah,
for.
apply. Good. Anything else?
That's it.
Mark?
Basically, the hot patching was completed last week. I went out and checked the patches today. Everything looks good as far as that. Crack filling right now. I called and talked to the salesman for everything else. He told me that he will have their crack fill crew in here next week, or nothing else will be completed within the next 2 weeks. So. And as far as catch basins and everything else, they're all very storm damage, stuff like that. Met with Gary Zappa at Zappa Brothers today. Basically, they've been tied up, up on Hanley Road, taking care of all the storm problems up there for the city of Hudson, and that we're next on the list. He figures they should be in here. He's hoping by the middle of next week to take care of all of our problems.
And that curb on 6th Street was part of that, right? I can't remember.
Yeah, they did that right away just because I told them that had to be taken care of because of the business thing, and then also being on the highway was a big traffic or a big possible safety problem, so that was taken care of.
As far as future agenda items, let's next month have a specific agenda item to discuss the Lakeview project. Kevin will have some preliminary figures that'll start in the preliminary budget discussion, but let's have some very specific conversation about that at this committee level.
There is one thing I would like to ask. I will be, for our next meeting, I will actually be out of town on the 10th to the 14th, and then my brother is coming in from Washington D.C., him and his wife are going to be in this week, and they're asking if we could go. They want to try to get us to go up north someplace. So I was kind of wondering, and I'll be talking to the park board, I was wondering if there's a way we could move the public works meeting to a different day. I know, George, you're going to be out of town,
Yeah,
so you won't be here after the 7th, right?
right.
Okay. So it's up to,
Okay, normally it would have been the 15th.
yes.
What are you suggesting?
I was thinking, they have, the 9th is open according to this, I don't know, they have BZA on the 8th, but I don't know if they're gonna meet or not, they haven't been meeting much.
So you're suggesting moving it earlier?
Yeah, either earlier or,
Well, how long does it take
or
for you
we
to
could
get your
have it
stuff
on the
done?
22nd, which would be
Couple weeks.
the Tuesday after.
He needs a couple weeks at least. How many? What do we got left in the month?
Just
So-
trying to think what I have. for
So we
conflicts.
can't do the same week or the first week in October, huh? Because he won't be ready. George would be here.
Yeah. You're leaving when, George?
Checking that right now.
I think you told me the 7th this
Yeah,
morning.
I know, and I got it.
The 7th until when?
I think we're coming back on the 28th or 29th.
Oh, so you're gone the rest of the month.
George goes on vacation. It's a vacation.
Well, he's going to Brazil.
Going to Rio. As in Janeiro.
You going to Rio?
Yeah.
Got that Speedo busted out?
I want you to look in the mirror and think of yourself in a Speedo.
I love the thought.
It's not a pretty sight,
I
is it?
love the thought. All right, what do we got
All right,
for
so-
options?
All right, so on Wednesday, the 9th, you're gone already.
Yeah.
Okay. Monday, the 7th is a possibility for you?
Yeah.
I could do it Monday, the 7th. I can't do it Tuesday, and Wednesday, you're gone. How are you on Monday, the 7th?
Unless, would it be better for Mark and for Kevin to wait till the end of the month?
Well, you're gone through the whole
Do
end
it
of the
on
month.
the, was it the 29th? Is that a Tuesday?
Yeah,
You
but
done
the thing
by the
is, it
7th?
doesn't give him enough time to
I
get something.
gotta see, I can't
Oh,
remember if I got
okay,
a meeting that night too.
Darrell, I think you can meet
Other
without
one?
me. So if you want to have it on, just have it without me.
I think the 7's going to work.
I took-
You're going to Rio. You're only packing a duffel bag.
That's exactly right. I am packing only a duffel bag.
That would work.
Kevin, does that
good.
work for you?
Yep,
7th
7
works.
would work with me, yep.
Not getting
All
out
right,
of it.
let's schedule it for Monday, 7 October.
We're going to wish you off to Rio with a meeting.
And then after we adjourn that night, you can sing the bossa nova or something
You know
nice.
what
See?
she- you know what
It's a
she-
win-win.
At least you're not asking me to dance.
Yeah.
It's a win-win.
Okay,
you know what
Monday,
to
the
get 'em for
7th.
a going away party or present.
Anything else from anybody? If not, our agenda is concluded, so we are adjourned.
Good work.